Just because as we go in, it's kind of like people separate themselves a week from the chaff. Not that anybody's special, but yeah. So, in that spirit, today we're going to talk about two major things that really center around the same idea. From what we talked about last week, it really stems from the idea of reverence for nature. So we're talking specifically about the wheel of the year, which is this passing of the seasons. We're going to kind of go through those line by line, and then we're going to talk about some seasonal myths that kind of back up those things. Kind of the bigger one, the biggest one we're going to talk about is sort of the Wiccan idea. I will say that a little bit Wiccans, so who don't understand like what that Wicca was kind of the first Protestant pagan religion that came to us out of pagan religion. So it kind of fractured later on. Now we have a whole bunch of subdivisions and things like that. So this is going to focus on kind of European folklore for the most part, and also magical items. So I saw that this is kind of a building exercise, I suppose. Next, we're going to talk about my favorite subject, which is how magic.
I love
We have one
that.
down here. I'm here for another chair.
There's another chair.
There you go. I think we're okay.
Hi, we got a new person. Hi, new person. Sorry to put you on the spot. So, what is your name?
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline. Nice to meet you, Jacqueline. Welcome to Pagan 101, Class 2. You weren't here last week, was that right? That's super okay. But
I didn't know about it.
oh, that's okay. I was just making sure that I wasn't putting my foot in my mouth. So.
He was just scaring everybody away last week.
I know. It's terrible.
This room was packed last week.
Oh yeah.
These are the true interested people here.
Yeah.
There were words like panentheism last week.
I thought you could say it. I just like...
and anthropos and
she can
anthropocentrism.
send you all of the stuff from last week too.
This is on here. It's all on here. You're welcome. So then if you
Then you
scroll
can
down, you'll see
catch up.
class 1, class 2. Nice and big there.
Then you can go over all the stuff we covered last week.
If you have questions, just let me know.
And Jacqueline, last week we covered just kind of like a lot of definitions and sort of boring, heady stuff. Today we're covering more of like the wheel of the year, which is kind of covering like pagan celebrations and things like that. So that's sort of the focus of the day. And you're all caught up? So yeah, another thing that I asked folks to do last week, and if you don't have a physical item with you, you can certainly describe one that you're thinking of, but the assignment was to bring a magical item. Now, some folks have no idea what a magical item even is, and I made sure to say that it's okay. It's anything that feels magical to you or special to you. You don't have to have a pagan practice. Like I bought tarot cards. Okay, that's a pretty pagan-y type of deal, divination type of thing. But it could literally be like a rock. Like I love my rock, and I don't know why. I think there was a person last week. Somebody asked about a crucifix. Is that person here? Mm-hmm. No, but there was a person. I have no idea about this. From a Catholic background, I'm like, bring a rosary. That would be a great item. Okay. So what I like to do is just to go around and kind of share our items. Again, if you don't have one, you can, just the one that you do have, or if you don't want to participate, you certainly don't have to. And then next week, we'll figure out why that item is magical to you. That make sense? All right. First, just since I got to start, my magical item today is my tarot. Well, I have lots of tarot decks, but this is my special deck. I like it a lot because it was born the same year I was, 1990. So, yeah, it's cool. And I use it for, divinatory purposes and giving readings for myself to other people and all of that. So that is my magical. Oh, and then listen, my partner bought me the little packet.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I'll go to the left. Do you have a magical item?
I have two.
Ooh, awesome.
So my first one is my dragon. He lost the battle with my cats. So it's at home.
We don't know what the cat looks like.
I have always been drawn to dragons. I even have a dragon tattoo on my arm here. I just think that they're just absolutely the most magnificent creature I just love them, And then, yeah, she gave us a meditation on Monday, the Monday night chat, and that completely sunk me into, and when she was describing colors and the whole scene, I turned into a dragon, and all the colors that she was talking about, she went from red to orange to yellow, and that was the fire. I was breathing fire all over, and then I was swarming all over and then she was talking about, blue, and that was the river, and I was I swooped down, and yeah, so it was and then I was totally out, and I didn't even realize that she was done. So
I figured when you were that you were the last one, besides some of us in the chat, that you had passed out.
Yeah. So I really love dragons. I even have 2 purple dragons on my dashboard because my work can be kind of stressful, and it grounds me. And so when I see them, it puts me in a happy spot.
Can we maybe mention names when we first start so we can try and get these down?
Oh, sure.
So we can. What?
Shannon.
Shannon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this one here is a love jar, and I actually did this one for me to be open and accepting and loving myself, and to always remind that, to love myself and take care of myself.
And it's pretty.
Yes, and it's great.
My name is Helen Marie, and my item's a little abstract, but music in general is my item. This is Mr. Roberta Flack. That's what I had in my car. Let's see, is it? Yeah, it is the best of Roberta Flack. Sometimes it's not always inside there. But I've always really liked music and singing, and it's always felt a little magical.
I'm Sandra, and my magical object is it's called an Apache tear. It's a form of obsidian. There are some magical attributes that are attributed to it, but for me personally, it's a connection to our neighbor lady that was an extra grandma to me when I was little, and then to the Apache women. The history of it is that it's from Mount Superior in Arizona, and in 1865 there was a battle, U.S. Army and Apache warriors, and they found where they were hiding, and 75 of them jumped off the cliff to avoid being captured. And when their women found out, heard the news, their tears fell to the ground and turned into these stones. It's why they're called the Apache tears, and I feel a connection with them.
Sweet story.
My name is Laura. This is my emotional support dragon, Sapphire. I had Sapphire for several years, and he lives in my purse, usually, or my backpack. I do a lot of things with large groups of people, and yet have also a level of social anxiety. And just knowing that Sapphire is there is helpful. And every once in a while, I can reach in. He's very soft.
My name is Anna, and my item is a charm necklace. And most of the charms were given to me by other people that I care about. And out of all of my necklaces, it's my favorite necklace because it makes me feel like I'm the people I care about more.
My name is Elizabeth, and my magical item is this ring. It's the first ring, well, first in general, I have a hard time picking out jewelry. I just stare for a long time and can't decide if I really like something or not. But I saw this ring and I really loved it. It's the first piece of jewelry that I bought for myself after my divorce. So I know just everything else in my jewelry box is, almost everything else is for my ex-husband. So.
My name is Terry, spelled with 2 R's and 1 Y. And what I have here, and I'll pass it around so you can see, I live in a townhome, so I don't have the ability to do a lot, but I have transferred my little patio into a garden. So nature is definitely one of my things, so that's nice that we're talking about that tonight. It's a little bit different every year, depending on what I see, and some of it is stuff that comes up year after year after year. So when I first started it, then started planting perennials, and so now it's always fun to see what's gonna pop up for me and what I have to fill in. And I also like the colors. We were talking about colors.
I like that you got rid of your patio. It's beautiful.
No.
I spend a lot of time out there.
It
Weeds
shows.
and watering this year, lots of watering.
Jacqueline, do you have any, like, an item you'd like to describe or anything that comes to
I
mind?
have my necklaces that are special, since given me by my aunt. She lives in Memphis and I don't see her that often, her family, so it's connection there.
That's neat stones.
My brother gave me this one, it's from Scotland, and it's Danish steel, and our family's Danish. It's connection to him and our ancestors. This one was made to me by a dear friend who passed away. He used to work in making jewelry and stuff. And this one is from my grandma Audrey. She passed away when I was like 2, 3. She's here if you want to wear it.
Awesome.
Alright, I'm Molly. This is what I brought for my magical item. She's a fairy, and I felt very connected to fairies like throughout my journey. And when I got her at a metaphysical shop, Enchanted, and it just kind of like shone and it lit up, I guess. I'm not really sure how to explain it out loud, but I just knew I had to have it. She sits on my altar, and she still shines real bright for me. So, yeah.
Does she have a little box underneath?
She does, yeah, she comes
Oh,
apart.
that's cool.
Yeah, I don't put anything in there though.
Well, maybe someday you'll find.
Yeah.
She's pretty.
We have one person sharing from chat, and it's Jamila, and Jamila says this is specifically for you, Lee. This is their
Oh, yes.
Jamila's magical item.
Aww,
Oh my gosh.
it turned out beautiful.
It did. It looked really good, Jamela, if you can hear me. So, yeah.
What would you say that is?
So I always mispronounce the name of it, but it's a magical item made out of an actual horse skull that's part of a ritual that Jamela could probably explain better than I could.
It's Welsh.
Yes, it's a Welsh tradition, especially for this time of the year around Samhain, I believe, is associated with that as well.
So I'm Isa, and I am the administrator of Officer CUUPS, and I have two, but I'll just talk about this one. This is a Triskelion. It's a Celtic symbol, and I am a priestess of Oregon, so this is one of her main symbols that she connects to. So that is very special and important.
How do you spell that?
The Triskelion?
Mm-hmm.
Trisk. Ellion.
I originally didn't intentionally bring a magical item, but I realized that I've been carrying one for probably about a year and a half now. This, hopefully it's not destroyed, is an ongoing project of mine, which is finished on the front but not finished on the back. And I've been making it for our home, and it's a wheel of the year. And I've been slowly making it. I've done probably like 6 sessions over at the art place when I can. But
So Jacqueline, I'm gonna tell you her name too,
huh?
so she can know your name. She
Oh,
wasn't
my
here
name is
last-
Gwen.
Okay.
I'm Issa's wife. Issa's also the administrative officer of CUUPS, and I'm the ritual officer. And we
That
just
is
wanna-
really cool.
Thank you. I can't wait to finish the back, which is going to take a while, but I'm gonna make it work. So, but hopefully one more session I'll be able to remember what exactly I wanted to do, and
One of these days it'll be.
get it fired. And then once it gets fired, then we can hang it up at home, and we have kind of like a hearth piece, because that's the idea. There was a lot of repainting. A lot of very slow, very deliberate work. So much so that the high school students that actually work at the local pottery place actually kind of know me as that weird lady that comes in every so often with that giant plate. So, and they always ask me, "Are you finished yet?" I'm like, not today. Anyway.
Lady, did you have anything you wanted to talk about or describe?
I'm Lissa. I'm Lee's lady. I do whatever they need me to do. I don't hold any offices, or I just follow the rules. I am my own gift. I do a lot of energy work for myself, I guess, mostly, but for others as well. I guess that's about it. I'm pretty magical.
Is anybody else in chat or in Zoom that had anything they wanted to share?
The only thing people said is Janae mentioned something with Yule, and I wasn't sure what she meant. And then Jamila said something about Marie
Louise.
Yes, a Welsh drink rap contest.
Essentially, the tradition, since Terry looks a little alarmed at the idea of drink/rap contest, is
In Welsh.
Yes, in Wales, it's tradition around the end time of the year, and it's kind of like differs when you do it, but is this creature basically will come around, basically knock on your door, and it also has like a party of caretakers, and will start basically demanding to be let in. So the skull and all of the caretakers can basically raid your pantry and drink all your beer. And the tradition says that you basically have to sing songy, give really good like continual excuses why you can't open the door and let them in, like, oh, I'm in the bathroom, my sink is clogged and overflowing, and but in Welsh, and basically give increasingly poor excuses until one side either gives up or you let the Mari Louise in and they drink you dry.
I have somebody else. Tracy in Zoom says I cannot get a photo to upload for the life of me, but I have a marble that I gave to my godfather as a child. He held onto it and gave it back to me as the first of my first child. I have carried it with me since then. Sometimes I pull it out and hold it in my hand when I'm feeling overwhelmed.
Okay. Who liked the Welsh story about?
That would be Jamila. If any of you type into chat, when we get another pause, with any information, I'll read it out to the group, otherwise.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm just going to take this back to last week a little bit. We did spent a lot of time on what pagans do. Some of those things were witchcrafting, and that's something that Gwen did here. She, basically crafting things for yourself, for your practice. We talked about, somebody was talking about candles earlier. And I know you didn't bring them in, but yeah, so there's candle magic type of stuff going on. I think what everyone has in common with their thing is a linking item. Okay, so it links you to something else, whether it's your dragon personification or a lot of you, it's your family, your friends, your heritage, that sort of thing. So that is where the magic lies right there, I would say, is the common denominator for absolutely everything. And then also there was a little bit of reverence of nature in there for our gardening. There was a connection to spirits of place with your Apache tier, the idea of connecting to places and people that inhabited those places and events that happened in those places. So what I'm trying to say is that even though we all have these diverse objects that nobody coached each other to bring in, they all do have one kind of common thread on what they are and why we use them, whether you're a practicing pagan or if you're just a regular person, if we're not regular people, okay? Next week, like I said, we're going to talk about specific magical theories and why certain things seem more magical than others. So keep your item in mind, and then you'll kind of maybe explore that and get a little bit deeper into it for yourself. Okay, so thanks for participating in that exercise. Now I'm going to move on to the Wheel of the Year, which Gwen segued into really well with the plate. So lost my train of thought. We'll go to the study guide. If anybody needs a study guide, we can have a QR code here for you again. And then
I thought I saved it, but it, no way.
Shouldn't pass that around.
I should have.
See, Jacqueline, you're not behind.
Everybody got it? Okay.
Thank you.
I didn't quite get it.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry. Oh, there's a light. There we go.
So we just take a photo with our
There you
camera?
Yep,
Yeah.
And then it'll link it to
bring up the
you.
website.
and yep, it'll pop up a little link when you focus your camera on it.
See the link? You'll touch the link that shows up on the picture.
Is that it? Right there? Try it. Yes, now tap on that.
There you go.
New modern
Tap down
technology.
here.
Maybe. The URL came up, but it's not actually opening the. I'll share. You can share. Going down to the Wheel of Life part, or the Wheel of the Year part.
Yep, Wheel of Year is where we're starting here.
How far down is that?
Uh,
Oh, class 2, I see.
There you go.
Class 2.
Yeah. All right, guys, so we're going to kind of run through the definition. It's an annual cycle of seasonal festivals observed by many modern pagans. The wheel is based on varying folk traditions and are heavily embellished. Okay. Again, all of these things were brought under the umbrella by the Wiccans. Okay.
321.
And have expanded from there.
4704.
Basically, they're made up of quarter days and cross quarter days. That's a fun way of saying solstices and equinoxes. And then if you make another X, it's the in-between points as well, okay? There's nothing saying that you have to follow everything to the T here. I don't even use like the proper names of the festivals. So I'll probably stumble when I say them, but I'm very attached to it in the idea that I work mainly my tarot and other things in accordance with the wheel and also on moon cycles, which we'll talk about a little bit. Timing. Modern pagans also have a very, also vary in their precise timing of practicing the wheel. Some choose to celebrate on a lunar event, most likely the full moon that corresponds to the date. Northern and southern hemispheres are flipped. So when we are having winter here, they are having summer down there. In order to kind of counteract this and sort of match up their seasons, in the southern hemisphere, some practitioners like to basically move everything up 6 months. So their Yule also has snow, well, if they have snow in those areas, so the weather patterns stay the same, if that makes sense. And then I have a little blurb here on the influence of Wicca. The Wheel of the Year was largely influenced by the mid-20th century British paganism. Pagan holidays are referred to as Sabbats, based on Gerald Gardner's claim that the term was passed down from the Middle Ages, specifically the European witch trials. Basically, what that means is that the Inquisitioners were torturing a bunch of people who didn't agree with them, and they somehow equated the word Sabbath, which is a Jewish term, with the festivals of the pagans. Litha and Mabon, which have become popular in North American Wicca, were actually introduced by Adrian Kelly in the 1970s. Okay, so it's been under construction for a while. Yeah.
So how could somebody just invent this?
Well,
So early in this.
they didn't really invent the season. It was kind of a symmetry thing, right? So you got Yule, you got your equinoxes, you got your solstices, and then you got like Bealtaine, which is a cross quarter day. So you're like, I probably should be celebrating something opposite of that. Okay. So they made it more symmetrical, if that makes sense. So that's a very good question. It's like, all right. So I'm going to go through them by name and kind of just read a little blurb about each. December 20th through the 23rd would be Yule. This is the winter solstice. This is the longest night of the year. The word Yule comes from the Norse word Jule, meaning wheel. Celebrations consist of heavy feasting, which is made possible by culling, which is a big idea in paganism. It's the idea that you can't take everything with you all of the time. Before refrigeration, before all of this stuff, you had to eat your food before it went bad. And so in the wintertime, in the fall time before winter, you had to make decisions on, am I going to feed my family or I'm going to use my grain to feed this animal that I have? So a lot of times the animal would be killed, and thus you would have meat for that short amount of time. Mistletoe, ivy, evergreen, the Yule log, candles, etc. Those are all kind of things that we see associated with this time. And you're going to notice, like, hey, aren't those like Christmas things? That's a very big conversation that would probably take all night. But yes, a lot of things for Christmas and all of that were heavily borrowed from various pagan traditions throughout the world. So then, yeah, February 1st to February 2nd.
So what you're saying is Christmas doesn't come from, or this doesn't come from Christmas. Christmas comes from
parts of
parts.
it. Yes. So yeah,
Symbols and things, yes.
Yeah, some of the symbols, like the Christmas tree, for example, pagans would celebrate trees that stay green all year round as a symbol and a promise of the sun coming back, that there were some things that didn't pass.
German, and we have a Yule log every year.
And there's a bunch of that is. So let's move on to Imbolc, also called Imbolc or Candlemas. It means in the belly of the mother. This is going to go, basically, we'll talk about how the god and goddess interact through this in a fable, or not a fable, if you're a devout believer in that.
And you say it how? Imbolc?
Imbolc or Imbolg. Or, yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to say things.
I wish Michael was here.
Yeah,
he
I know.
pronounces it the best. Imbolg. It's like Imbolg.
It's a hard.
Imbolg.
Imbolc.
Imbolg. Imbolg. Like that kind of ish.
And Beltane's actually Beelzebub.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
And a lot of it comes from Irish pronunciation too.
It's actually not pronounced Mavon either.
Yeah, really? I didn't even know that one.
Snapchat, Mabon.
It's Babon, yeah.
Mabon, and it's taken from the Welsh god Mabon.
Yeah.
And it was actually anybody who's seen our posts was a big discussion that it's potentially offensive to Welsh people to refer to it, and they prefer to only have us talk about it as the optional equinox, because otherwise it does a disservice to that particular deity, and they wish that it would have become like Mabon's Day, would have been okay as a reference.
Let's see what else we have. Yeah, and that's another example of how things are ever changing. Let's see. Celebrations for this time, feasting, making offerings to the Celtic god Brigid or Brigid, a goddess of healing and fertility. She's a daughter of Dagda in Irish mythology. Pilgrimages to healing wells were often a thing kind of in that same area. Even today, people still walk around the wells saying prayers, tying the cloths to branches of trees. And this is still doing, there's a well in Ireland called Doon, in that area. And that's kind of the most popular one. Making Bridget's crosses and hanging them in the home is a common thing to do. A Bridget's cross is an equilateral cross that has concentric squares in the center, and it can be often made out of corn stalks and things of that nature. Kind of an interesting thing about this one is Bridget is also a saint. So Catholics often will use the St. Bridget's cross, which is considered to be a pagan symbol, in churches around this time. And I've actually seen these when I've been done funerals. They'll hang them above the doors by the exit signs and things like that.
Okay, there's two different spellings here.
Yep.
Which is it really? Is it
Both.
with a D or an ET?
So Brigid, I believe, is a pronunciation. If you can help me out, guys, I think this is right. And then Bridget is a more English version of the same thing.
I think,
You had a question too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's, is it more, I thought it was more Celtic.
It is.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Gaelic specifically.
Yes.
It's also kind of like where it says Imbolg, and you see the C or the G at the end. During our actual ritual early this February, Michael would gave his little thing about saying that the G is actually the more proper spelling, but the C is the more modern Gaelic spelling, while the G is the traditional spelling. And so it's just language.
Yeah, linguistics. Yeah, and St. Bridget's Cross is what that was called, if you wanted to take a look at it. I don't have a picture on my thing. Yeah, and basically it was a symbol of good luck, specifically to protect from fire, all of that sort of thing. It's a spring equinox. This comes from the Germanic goddess of spring, Esoter. Correct, guys? I'm so bad at pronunciations. She's only mentioned a couple times in scholarly writings. Both were by Christian monks.
Yelster.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
And she's mentioned in a couple of inscriptions in Germany, kind of on, I think, some gravestones and some other monuments.
She's also connected to fertility.
Yep. And that leads me to the question, why do rabbits lay eggs on Ostara? This coincides with Easter.
really bad joke.
Sounds like the start of a dad joke.
There's a
I
comedian.
don't think you need you to laugh, but I'm sitting over here giggling just because I know you.
So that there's this comedian and he has this joke. I think it might have been George Carlin. I don't know, but it's kind of making fun of Christianity, unfortunately. But that he's explaining this situation. It's like Christ is risen, hide the eggs. Like, you know. I don't know, but so
Yes,
yes,
that's
sure
a
is.
Brigid's cross.
Yes.
That is cool.
We've made them.
That's tradition.
So the mystery behind the rabbits and the eggs is that without artificial lighting, chickens don't lay many eggs in the winter. And then rabbits also, their mating patterns follow those lines, so they're not running around as much, they're not accessible. So when Bridget comes back around Easter, as we know it here in America, I guess,
Beginning of spring.
yeah, beginning of spring. So that's another idea of commingling things like we were talking about with Christmas and Yule, right? Things survive even though they're subjected sometimes. Let's move on to Beltane. We'll hear it spelled or said Beltane a lot of times. In the Irish language, this translates to the month of May. This coincides with May Day. The biggest thing ritual-wise that you'll see kind of in neo-pagan circles is a maple dance. We have one here. That's kind of the big event down at our labyrinth. A lot of ironing and straightening of ribbons. And
We used a flat iron last year.
We did every single ribbon. It took like 2 hours.
But it's fun and it's really pretty when it's done. So
It was.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
The word is derived from Old Irish meaning bright fire. Bel means light, and the Celtic sun and healer god was, I'm not even going to try, Bolinus, something of that nature. Bonfires played an important role. Often they would drive cattle between bonfires with the ideas that the smoke would purify them and keep them healthier. Also, couples would jump over bonfires for good luck for their relationship. It was kind of some weird things. All of these traditions have these odd little, like, I don't know, I call them quirks, but like little things that are like, why did they do that? But it was also deemed unlucky to give away salt, fire, I don't know how you give away fire, or water on May Day, as luck and profits of a farm went down because you shared these gifts.
I know how the fire works.
Ooh, good.
So in Beltane, you are supposed to douse your fire the night before and not relight your fire until you relight your hearth from by taking a lit branch from the central bonfire from the community. So once you relight from the community fire, then it's okay. But you're not supposed to share your own individual house fire with someone else. That everyone's supposed to get from the community bonfire and then bring it back home.
Makes a lot more sense.
I'll just take a handful of
Yeah.
fun. There you go, Merry Christmas.
Fireball.
Something.
Shots.
So, and this is also the other side of the wheel from Samhain, which we're going to talk about. So a lot of the kind of Halloween scary stuff applies then as well. It's the idea, it's a time when the veil thins. So, you know, communication with the other side or whatever source you choose to believe in is supposedly more powerful during these times. Witches and fairies are believed to be unusually active during this period. We kind of are. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, milk could be poured across the threshold of your house to prevent the wee folk or fairy folk from messing with you. And then also fairy forts were a thing. Everybody, these are coming back. People build little fairy houses and stuff all the time now. Those are, yeah. They're derived from these really abandoned military forts that were in the area, and then people believe them to be haunted and then inhabited by the fairy folk. So that's really what people are building monuments to, is like old ring forts Be fun to tell your boss. Yeah. Then moving on to Litha, which is June 19th through the 23rd. It's the summer solstice. Traditions of Litha appear to be borrowed from many cultures. The Celts celebrated with hilltop bonfires and dancing. Many people attempted to jump over the fires for good luck. Other European traditions include setting large wheels on fire and rolling them down into a body of water down a hill. In some traditions, Litha is when the battle of the light and the dark takes place, from the transfer of power from the Oak King to the Holly King, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we get to the myths section. The Oak King represents daylight and rules that, and then the Holly King represents the darker time. Then we go to Lammas, which is August 1st, around then. This is what's known as the first of the harvests. So going back to what I said before about the harvest being very important for the survival of the winter, this was considered to be the loaf mass. So the idea of harvesting grains.
You did the bread?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why we did the bread baking event
Okay,
here.
yeah, I understand.
What style?
So
we had an event for.
You would not believe how many loaves of bread they made.
We actually baked bread here. We used the kitchen and made bread together and from scratch.
Made a mess and had to clean up.
Yeah.
It's probably the most the kitchen's ever been used that
I know,
strenuously.
that was like the
kickoff.
The genesis of the kitchen being in operation. We used all of the tools.
And the reason for that time of year and for doing that is because that's the time you would traditionally start harvesting grains. So then,
I think I had, because I remember when I was a kid, we used to do something similar. I don't remember why, there's some reason, I don't know if it was because this.
very well could have stemmed from there.
Do we also want to touch on the alternate name this festival goes?
Yeah, I don't have it down in here.
Yeah.
Lunar Sun.
Yeah.
It's from the Celtic King Lugh.
Which is mentioned there, but sometimes you'll hear this term referred to as Luv, that Nasad, and
and then we go from there to Mabon, thank you, which is September 21st through the 24th. This is the autumn equinox, and this is the second harvest. This is generally when fruit would start to be harvested at this time. It's known as Witches' Thanksgiving. Cornucopias are kind of a thing here where they start to come into play, where you get like the breads and the grains and the fruits all in one place. It's one of the oldest harvest celebrations in Europe. Also, this was a time to start honoring the dead, going to burial mounds. Cemeteries were, it was considered to start safe to go into cemeteries during this time to start to kind of begin the practice of ancestor veneration for the year. And then also you have fires that were lit at charns. Charns are the burial mounds, and they were carried around in gourds, which kind of evolved into our jack-o'-lanterns that we use during the season. And I already talked about the Horn of Plenty, which is the cornucopia. And then October 31st through November 1st, we have Samhain, spelled Samhain. And this is a nuts and berries harvest. Also, culling would happen at this time, where you would, slaughter animals that weren't going to be going through the winter. Originally, the word comes from Gaelic. This ushers in the dark half of the year. And again, like Bealtaine, it's believed that the barrier's thin. So spirit communication, source communication, a lot stronger during this time. Trick-or-treating has its roots back in this time as well. In Ireland, mumming was a practice of going around in costumes and basically going up to the door, singing, and then getting cakes as payment. And then things evolved from there. So that is a quick rundown of the Wheel of the Year. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, anything like that? Anything you want to add to any of that stuff?
So is that sort of what you got on your plate?
Yep.
The wheel?
That's the Wheel of the Year, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll give it back.
So when you guys celebrate, Christmas or, Halloween in that
So,
sense of it, or, the gathering and the feasting,
yeah, so like,
Okay, now I see all those around there. Okay, you do have the Yule, the Yule on you, which would be like the Christmas.
yep. And here, like, for this group, we'll do basically a potluck at that time, kind of to signify that, And also, I find it easier, so obviously, I'm not a big, I don't know, fully even.
That was really good.
But you can sort of be included using, because a lot of the symbology is the same and things like that, so I don't find it hard to practice at that time of year or whatever. And I just kind of like the decadence of the season anyway. Santa Claus is fun. We'll talk about egregores later. But, yeah.
Chaos magic, really.
Yeah. I have a theory that Santa Claus is the best egregore ever created.
Are those the egregores?
Oh, it's just real quick. It's basically the idea of making your own being through magical practice, and then having it to serve you or to have a purpose. And well, that's a thought form. And then when groups of people make those, they become egregores. So it's the idea of the more people give more power to an idea, the more powerful it gets. So Santa Claus, people say it's not real, but Santa Claus sells millions of presents and it, has images all over the place. So I would argue that Santa Claus is a magical being created through egregore means.
And egregore is kind of the neutral secular term for the thought form. Before the term egregore came into being, people would use the term tulpa from the Tibetan and other South Asian beliefs to reference that kind of thought form.
What did the word you used, how do you spell that?
E.G. egregore. Oh boy. Egregore.
That sounds right.
Egregore.
Okay.
And then tulpa that's Tulpa, and that's the classical term that Glenn was talking about.
It is. Though every time I see egregore, I think of Shrek for some reason.
Yes, it reminds you of Igor, and like ogre.
Ogre.
Because
Yeah.
all those letters are within that. It's a fox.
Yeah.
Did you say the Krampus, the German?
Definitely
Is he
is.
kind of?
Yep, it'd be the same thing.
Tooth fairy.
Tooth fairy, yeah. Yeah. So what I'd like to do is take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about some seasonal myths and kind of how this wheel interacts with certain mythologies.
What did you say it reminds you of?
I said it.
Oh, well, pretty much fun.
Depends on the major.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so real quick, I just kind of want to talk about the general Wiccan idea of what's going on with the gods during the seasons, okay? Again, in my opinion, and this is just an opinion, this old narrative's kind of tired. There's a lot of issues with it. Wicca worked very heavy with the gender binary, which is not appropriate for all practitioners. So, everyone changes this accordingly. But traditionally, and by traditionally, I just mean like Gardnerian Wicca. So at Yule, you have the god representing the sun, and it's born from the mother representing earth. And this all does kind of correspond to, how much warmth we get during that season, how much we see the sun, basically. Then at Ostara, the god's growing in power, along with the goddess who's now returned to
Where'd
maiden.
that go?
Then at Beelzebub, you have the god courting the goddess and impregnating her. So this is also a little incestuous and weird. I was like, yeah.
Mhm.
And Beelzebub is also kind of a fertility sort of festival in a lot of traditions.
Funny story.
Mhm.
So, Yelta was, of course, comes from the Celtic heritage and culture. And when Christianity came to the UK, of course, it wasn't UK then, but the British Isles, the Pope had to make an exception during the 3rd and 4th centuries to suspend marriage vows, because during that whole week of that festival, people would go and have connections with anyone they wish.
Sure.
Because of that particular flavor.
It's like a really cool festival.
Maybe perhaps that is why Beelzebub
Yes, it's
and
supposed to be.
Fire Festival.
I like to think of it as we've been cooped inside all winter. It's finally nice out. Let's. Yeah.
There's a lot of September birthdays.
Let's see, Ostar, oh no, yeah, where were we? Beelzebub, because we just said that story. Then at Lammas, you have the god waning in power, right? The sun becoming less. And then Samhain, you have the god passing into the underworld to then be reborn at Yule and get stronger. Okay, so that's sort of the narrative of the classic Wiccan ideology, with all its flaws. Now, there are many, many more. Okay, every culture has seasonal myths to some degree. One of the oldest ones is the Greeks, the idea of Persephone and Demeter and Hades. The idea that Hades abducted Persephone, who was the daughter of Demeter, a very powerful goddess. She was so sad that she stopped everything from growing until she would find her daughter. The gods then intervened, helped her find her daughter with Hades. Hades, however, struck a bargain, saying that she had to, since they were married, she had to remain in Hades half of the year, and then she could return and to be with Demeter for half of the year. So, yeah, or a third of the
Entirely
year.
correct.
Yeah,
He didn't really strike a bargain.
it was a
tricked her.
seed thing, right?
He tricked
Yeah.
her.
That's where Mandarin comes from.
The idea
Yeah.
is that the food grown in the underworld can only be consumed by people that have to stay in the underworld. So he took a pomegranate, opened it up, and he gave her some seeds from it. So she was then tied to the underworld and had to return at least
Which is like pomegranates are a thing for Persephone.
And Demeter actually, in the beginning of it, let everything die, and it stayed dead until Zeus intervened
Intervened.
and made something happen, because the earth was basically a wasteland.
Like, Hades, I get it. But
Come on,
like
man.
she ate the pomegranate seeds, but still Earth's dead. Come on, man. All right.
And there are variations of it, like some say that she has to go down for half of the year. Then there's also she ate 3 seeds, so she's there for 3 months. There are different variations, but yeah. So that's an example of one that by far predates anything that the Wiccans said. Okay, why is this important? I think is the real reason that we're all here. I do believe it's important to live seasonally, not just as a pagan, but as a person. With anxiety and stress and all of that, I think that if you ground yourself to the wheel of the year, observing the seasons and things like that, it's a reminder of the fact that everything does change, that there's really no such thing as permanence. I think that that's kind of the biggest support I see for like seasonal living and recognizing the wheel in my own life.
So that's what I do with my gardening.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. Right. Yeah. And probably makes you feel pretty good, right? To be connected to that. And the world that we live in attempts to separate us from that, you know, just because I don't know why it's profitable.
And even when it connects us to it, because the seasonal festivals are big, but they're all heavily commercialized. So
Right.
one of the things I love about pagan spirituality is that it observes the wheel in much more of a personal aspect instead of the, oh, we do these same holidays because my parents did them and their parents did them and their parents did them, and now I've been told, you know, I have to go to Walmart and max my credit cards to, you know, have XYZ, when a lot of pagan folks are just happy enough to go out into the woods and be like, hey, the leaves are starting to fall. This makes me feel happy.
Don't make massive credit card debt for the main for the sake of gifts.
What kind of American are you?
How dare you not be consumerist?
Here we go.
No, I'm just. But I do think that's it. So I have this theory that if something won't die, it's important. So this idea of living seasonally, it can only be co-opted. It can't be killed, right? So no matter, it's kind of like, well, we can't stop them from doing this, kind of like our Pope story, right? But we can sure charge the hell out of them, right? So it's kind of like, if you can't beat them, join them type of thing. So that to me shows a lot of promise, as you know, with my pagan practice and just in general, that the human will tends to grow through the rubble, if that makes any sense. Also, I would leave you with this. I think that it's nice. I don't want to get into everyone's specific gods and goddesses and ideas of source, just because there's a lot of humans here. But I think that if you can work in communicating with whatever you're communicating with and figuring out, hey, what is this thing in my narrative doing when fall starts? Building your own narrative or you know, adopting one that's been used and really tailoring it to yourself. That's something that's going to be able to connect you to the seasons, build your practice, and yeah. Yeah, so we're good. That's really all I have for you guys. Again, next time, remember what you brought, because we're going to talk about it further for show and tell. You don't have to bring it again if you don't want to. And then I think next time is the most fun. This is the second most fun, but I like getting into like magical theory, how things work. Basically, it's the idea of connectedness, which we talked about from the first day, how everything's an interconnecting web and how that works.
Anyone have any questions, comments, attestations?
Definition of attestation.
Huh?
What's the definition of attestation?
Well, technically, attestation is kind of like a very official form of saying, yes, something happened, or no, something didn't happen.
It's like an affirmation.
Yeah.
Big word.
It's a good $20 word.
I like it. I don't know. I've heard not a lot of them.
It's kind of like would be used in a courtroom setting, like or a deposition. Like, do you attest that on X day, X individual, you saw X individual do X, Y, Z? You say, you know, I do. Yeah.
Sorry.
Ooh.
It's okay, I just wasn't expecting a coffee.
I know, right? We have a fun committee at work, and they did a whole hot cocoa bar, and
That's
bring
pretty
lunch
neat.
from home.
That's a pretty neat.
From what I got, my grumpy mug.
I wish we had a fun committee at work.
You just work.
I'm on the fun committee at work.
I love our fun committee. It's so much fun. Where do you work?
I work at Edward Jones.
Nice. What's your fun committee?